Hey folks, Wes here. I'm going to do something a little bit different this evening. I picked up this camera at Goodwill last weekend. This is a Canon A-1. A little bit of history. My first SLR camera ever that I bought back in the 90s was a Canon AE1 program. And I always wanted, I want to get another one of those at some point, but I found this Canon A1 at Goodwill. This is actually a better camera than the AE1. This one happens to have a problem with the shutter release. This uses an electromagnetic shutter release on it. It's all electrical, and when I bought it, the battery was dead. I put a new battery and it wouldn't fire, so I traced it down to the shutter release. This is the shutter release itself. I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the other camera here to show you a close-up of this. This is what it looks like here. Just an electromagnet, and so the problem with this particular one was one of these pins where it gets soldered onto the circuit board. I hope you can see that one of the one pin on this side is basically, it is gone. It has corroded away, I guess is what happened. I'm not really sure. I tried to resolder it, and there was just not enough there left to get a good grab on the circuit board, so it was not able to make a connection. It was making connection intermittently, but not all the time, and it was, it'd be very frustrating to be out somewhere shooting and have it not work. So I was able to locate a replacement brand new part, this whole piece here, the whole shutter release, on eBay, and that is this right here. And hopefully you can see that this one has two good pins on it, and it also is it's still closed up here. You can see how this one has been opened up. These do have a tendency to get stuck, and sometimes I read some comments on message boards from people who worked in camera stores at the time when this camera was popular in the late 70s, early 80s, and they said, people would often come in and say, my camera's broken, and 5 minutes they would open up the back, or open up the bottom of the camera and release this. Possibly sometimes you'll have to clean the contacts in there. Sometimes they get a little sticky, but other than that, once you do that, it's repaired. So if you do have a Canon A1 and it's not shooting, even though you have a good battery in there, go ahead and open up the bottom and see if this is stuck shut. That might be a solution for your problem. So that's a helpful tip to anyone who might be watching this, happens to have this camera. So let's go ahead and open up the camera and start working on it, and we'll show you where this one is going to go. Okay, so you want to remove the bottom panel of the camera here. There's just two small Phillips head screws, one on either side, that releases this bottom panel. And there is the inside of the camera. If you ever wanted to see what the insides look like, the shutter release sits right in here in this area of the camera. So that is where that is. On the other side, you have the cocking mechanism and stuff all over here that sort of cocks everything, sets it up, ready to go. And here is the circuit board where this shutter release gets soldered onto. The first thing I'm going to do is remove all this old solder. It's just old, and it's as I said, the contact itself had corroded, and I want to start off fresh. So I'm going to use some desoldering braid and clean up this old solder for the first step. Okay, you can see here we have our 2 soldering points and the holes that the pins will stick through from the shutter release mechanism. The solder is all cleaned off of those, so I'm going to go ahead and install the shutter release itself and get it screwed into place, and then I'll be ready to hopefully solder these pins back down and be done with this. And when I put this back together after pulling the shutter release out, I put the screws that hold it in back inside the camera so they would be in there. I wouldn't have to worry about keeping track of them, so I gotta remove them first before I can actually install the part. Hopefully I can do this without dropping these down into the camera. I'm going to turn it upside down to avoid having that happen. That would be a very bad thing. Okay, so the 2 screws that hold it in are out now. Go ahead and slide it in here. I'm going to go ahead and release this screw here. That'll help me. The circuit board's probably going to have to be repositioned in order to get the get those pins from the shutter release to go through. Okay, so yeah, much easier now. Okay, so it's all installed there. It doesn't look like it's focusing. I don't know if you can see, but the pins are now sticking out above the circuit board. Everything's screwed down in place. I'm ready to go ahead and put some fresh solder on there and hopefully put the bottom back on and call this one done. Looks like some pretty good solders there. Nice and shiny and clean looking. I didn't even check to see if, I hope I took the battery out of here first. No, the battery was still in there. Anyway, let's see what we got here. Maybe we can catch it in action here. So you see what happens when you cock this. The lever comes over, pushes it. It's just lightly gets stuck onto that electromagnet. And then as soon as you fire the shutter, a little bit of a charge goes through the electromagnet and releases it. And you'll see that happen now. And that fires the shutter. So that's a quick fix for a Canon A-1 from the late 70s, early 80s. Really cool camera. I'm probably going to be talking about this a lot more in the future. I'm going to go ahead and clean this up good, load it up with some film, and take some pictures. So hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you for watching.